Hey guys, good afternoon. It's Heather from Tomatoes, Poppies, and Everything Gardening. Can you see what was right behind me here? I am drying some basil, and that basil has been up there for about 2 weeks. It's ready to come down and be packaged and put away. Today's video is about drying basil, but it's also about preserving basil another way so that we can have a somewhat similar fresh basil taste in the winter. So for the drying of the basil, all we need is a clip, somewhere to hang it where it's kind of a dry environment, out of direct sun, but it doesn't have to be completely dark. As you can see by my kitchen, I'm in my kitchen right now. And then for our other method, we're going to just use freezer bags, and I am going to use some olive oil. So let's head outside. I want to show you some of the basil that I'm thinking about processing. It's getting late in the season. Thankfully, my basil has really kind of managed to hang on. It looks pretty well and healthy. So it's time, before it gets any later in the season, we're going to go ahead and harvest the basil. So let's head outside. I'm just going to show you the basil I have drying here a little bit closer. So on this part of the chandelier is cinnamon basil. You can see the leaves are very, very dry. It is definitely ready. I think I will save the cinnamon basil for possibly tea use, so I'll keep that separate. This is holy basil, and I have a ton of holy basil everywhere. It just grows and self-seeds. And when I find patches of it, I just kind of rinse it, hang it upside down, dry it, and then I will save this for tea as well. This is Queen Siam basil. This I would probably put into like a basil blend if we want to have a dry basil blend. So for the sweet basil I'm going to be looking to harvest today, I think I will maybe dry a third of it and then process the other 2/3 into our freezer bags with a little olive oil, and then we're going to freeze it. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that real quick. You can see how quickly they dry out. When they're dry and crunchy like that, you can hear it. It's ready to be preserved into your container of choice. You could do a glass jar. You could, usually what I do to save space is I will use a Ziploc type storage bag and then smush all the air out, and then I can stack them like that instead of having a bunch of jars everywhere, which does look really pretty, but for storage, that's what works for me. Okay, so now we are heading outside. I think I'm going to harvest all of the nice intact leaves from this variety. This is called lettuce leaf basil, and this will go into my dry blend because it's not as sweet as like a sweet basil or Genevieve basil. It's got more of a stout flavor, so I think that would make it good for the dried blend. So yeah, let's get busy chopping away. So this is a pretty severe cutback, but I did leave some foliage, and I expect before first frost I will have another flush of leaves that I can cut off of here to harvest if I wish. But I really needed to open up the lighting for this little bitty Brussels sprout baby there. He was getting too much shade with the basil, but I didn't want to remove the basil because it does offer some pest protection for plants to help repel a little bit of the bad guys, not all of them of course, but so that's still in place to offer that scent to help deter pests, and it should grow some new leaves, and hopefully by then my Brussels sprout will be much taller. Originally I thought I had planted sweet basil, but actually I had planted Genovese basil for this summer. Very slight differences between the two. Can be interchangeably used, just slightly flavor tone differences, and I think the leaf shape and size might be slightly different too. So I went ahead, I got a huge bowl of this, and we're going to bring it inside and get it cleaned up. Here I've got it on my counter. I've got a bath in a freshly scrubbed kitchen sink, filling up with some cool water. I put in about a tablespoon of baking soda. You can see I'm picking through any leaves that look suspicious. They're coming off. The reason I do this 5-minute soak in the baking soda is to kill off any bugs. I found quite a few. And after they have a 5-minute soak in the baking soda water, I also rinse the leaves in some cool water, and then I put them in a colander. Then I move on to my table that I have lined with lots of clean towels, and kind of separate the leaves out so they have some air to dry, and then I let them dry. Okay, it's been a couple hours and these are not completely dry yet, so I think I'm gonna flip them over and then give it a little bit more time, and then we'll get started freezing some of this. So I have my dry basil in a clean bowl. I'm going to add a little drizzle of olive oil at a time. Very, very gently kind of fold those leaves, move them gently, coat those leaves with the olive oil, and then put your leaves with the oil into a freezer bag. Kind of smush out the air as much as you can. Of course, don't forget to label. I decided to do a second version of this to make it easier on myself. So I put the oil into the bag, then I added layers of leaves, a little more oil, another layer of leaves, and then I give it a gentle shake just to coat the leaves. I don't want to smush them, bruise them. Basil leaves will bruise very easily. And you can see I'm just kind of flipping them all around here, trying to coat as many leaves as possible. And then I'm going to smush that air out again very gently, and then zip it and put them into the freezer with the other bag that we made. We'll call that the bowl method, and we'll call this the bag method. So you can see the difference here. I'm voicing over because this is really late at night when I'm making this video here that you're looking at. In just a few minutes, we will see the morning results. With the remaining bundles, I simply clipped them together and hung them on my chandelier with the other drying basil to naturally dry out on its own. It should take, 1 to 2 weeks. I saved some in a container to use over the next few days. The one in the glass jar here, as it's the next morning, you can see that my basil here that's hanging is starting to dry. And then I took these out of the freezer just now so I could show you. These are the basils that we froze. This was the one I used the oil in the bowl. You can see there's quite a bit of olive oil in there, but not a lot. And then this is the one that I just put the olive oil into the bag and gently kind of coated the leaves. Looks like there's less olive oil in this one, but both look green. They're both frozen. Probably prefer the bag method for cleanup and just ease of, getting them into the bag and coated. So what I'll do is if I want to use some of this, I'll just open the bag, break off a chunk, and that'll be it. And this should last until next summer. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. And here's some scraps that I have for the deer. The deer love basil. I will talk to you soon. Hope you're having a great gardening week. Bye.